Why is Michelle Obama whinging? She seems to always be whinging. Why are things so hard for her right now?
I know. I mean, because when you're thinking of victims of this awful world, you think of Michelle Obama and how terrible we've all been to her. This woman is a one-woman destitution derby. Every time we check in on her at her podcast, she is feeling sorry for herself. She is criticizing Barack Obama or this country. She never has a positive word to say about anything.
Megyn Kelly just dropped a bombshell about Michelle Obama's marriage. And trust me, this isn't your average polite discussion. We're talking jaw-dropping comments, eyebrow-raising claims, and some seriously bold moments that'll have you glued to your screen. What exactly did Megyn say that left everyone stunned? Spoiler alert, it's dramatic, it's wild, and it's impossible to ignore. Stick around, this roast is about to get seriously heated.
Her most recent episode, which still on YouTube, she's got like 200,000 subscribers. It's really amazing that now she's been doing this for how many episodes? She's been literally on every podcast of the left wing promoting it. And that's still all she's managed to get. Here she is interviewing Dr. Sharon Malone, perhaps better known as former Attorney General Eric Holder's wife. And therein lies the problem, as these two ladies married to two very famous men are pissed that they are not the alpha in terms of popularity and recognition in their...
Megyn Kelly just dropped the verbal version of a mic drop on Michelle Obama's marriage. And honestly, it's the most entertaining thing online this week. Okay, maybe second to that celebrity TikTok dance fail, but still. Forget the usual polished praise and soft focus media takes on the Obamas relationship. Megyn brought a sledgehammer to that picture-perfect image. She peeled back the filter, and suddenly those flawless Instagram posts and carefully curated smiles weren't so easy to believe anymore.
And that's annoying because she's supposed to be the star, Glenn. Michelle Obama. This dovetails perfectly with so many other comments she's made about how she is like, what about me? What about me? What did those 8 years in the White House do to my soul? And why isn't anyone asking? They shouldn't have to be told to ask about how I'm doing.
First, let's talk about the elephant in the room that Megyn pointed out, the whole royal couple image the Obamas have been projecting. It's like watching a Netflix series about a glamorous dynasty, except the script feels a little too rehearsed and the performances just a bit too polished. You know the vibe, graceful, composed, picture perfect. The kind of marriage you'd hang on your wall as art, but maybe wouldn't want to live inside. Because spoiler alert, behind the sparkle, it might feel more like a museum than a home.
Still at it. And in this particular soundbite, she's got thoughts on relationships. Listen here.
Relationships are long and there are also ebbs and flows, right? So I think sometimes people who date don't realize that, you know, in long-term relationships, you're gonna have deep dips. And you're going to have
a bad year.
You're going to have a bad... I tell people, and folks think that this is harsh, it's like you're going to have a bad decade.
Megyn didn't just stop at saying, hey, maybe it's not all perfect. No, she went full popcorn mode, hinting that the polished image might be less about real connection and more about keeping a public brand alive. Because when every move is watched by millions, marriage stops being just a relationship. It turns into a strategy, a nonstop campaign, a carefully managed photo op with a team of advisors whispering, smile, smile. Don't let them see the cracks.
Went on a podcast called Diary of a CEO. It's kind of rings a bell like a founder kind of situation. And once again, wants you to know how awful it is to be married with children.
There are just many natural reasons why marriage, infertility, trying to have kids makes things difficult. It's like, I try to tell couples, of course it's hard. Just listen to what I said, right?
Now here's where it gets juicy. Megyn didn't paint the Obamas' marriage as a fairy tale, but as a high-stakes balancing act where real emotions are often the third wheel. Imagine being married while every disagreement, every awkward pause, every "are you seriously wearing that?" moment becomes public property. Fun, right? Like starring in a reality show where the prize is non-stop scrutiny. Megyn's take was this. The Obamas are stuck in a polished cage they built themselves, forced to play perfect not just for each other, but for the world. With the pressure of politics, their marriage might feel less like sweet whispers and more like coordinated statements and polite silence. She hinted it's less a love story and more a brand partnership where appearances matter more than authenticity. And let's be real, it's not just the red carpets and photo ops. Megyn pointed out the massive pressure political life puts on a relationship, the distance, the travel, the spotlight. It's the kind of emotional obstacle course that would make even the calmest couple want to scream into a pillow. So if anyone still thinks marrying a former president means candlelit dinners and fairy tale endings, they probably also think kale tastes like dessert.
Michelle Obama is making clear that everything that she had to do to support her husband's career was something that was completely against her will, that it was some sort of like psychological damage and imposed on her for having to do it. Like she has resentment and bitterness, like I went to this dinner, but against my will because I had to. That's the first thing. I mean, how much anger and resentment does she have toward her husband for having had his own political career that, as we talked about before, made Michelle Obama one of the richest, most influential, most famous, and one of the most powerful people on the planet. And yet she talks as if that trajectory that he took her on was something that, turned her into some kind of horrible victim.
Megyn's biggest mic drop: maybe, just maybe, the public deserves a more honest look at what marriage really looks like when it's tangled in power, politics, and non-stop image control. Forget the fairy tale. What we need are real stories, flaws, frustrations, and those raw moments of, why are we even doing this? Because let's face it, no marriage is Instagram perfect, no matter how many glam squads or PR whisperers are involved. Megyn didn't sugarcoat it. These perfect couples are setting wild expectations for the rest of us normies. It's like handing everyone a cake made of fog and wondering why no one's full. She made it clear, when everyday people watch these curated love stories, they start questioning their own relationships, brewing up a cocktail of envy, doubt, and a side of, what's wrong with us? So yeah, thanks for that, power couples. But here's the twist. There was no public feud, no explosive confrontation. Megyn just unleashed her sharp takes, dropping verbal fireworks while Michelle stayed totally silent. Not a word, no response. Crickets, and that silence, that's what turned the spark into a blaze, fueling speculation, stoking the internet, and leaving the whole conversation floating in the air like a dinner table bomb no one wants to touch.
Michelle Obama, you're back, and she's given us a whole new realm of comments. Glenn, we saved them just for you. Because she's still...
I told your staff I only started watching this podcast religiously because of the times I've been on your show and you've talked about it by yourself or with me. So I'm very ready to talk Michelle Obama.
Oh, good. She's still just as bitter as ever.
Megyn's takedown wasn't just headline bait. It was a bold challenge to the picture-perfect stories we've been fed about high-profile marriages. She dared to say what most won't, that even the Obamas aren't immune to the real-life ups and downs of any relationship. Arguments, compromises, moments where love alone doesn't cut it. Yup, those happen, even behind those flawless public smiles. And weirdly enough, that's both hilarious and kind of comforting. Because if Michelle and Barack aren't gliding through marriage like a Disney montage, maybe there's still hope for the rest of us figuring it out. And that's where Megyn's roast really hits different. It's not just about dragging, it's about pulling the curtain back on how wild our expectations of perfect have become. In a world full of filters, highlight reels, and relationship goals, she reminded us that real life is messier, weirder, and honestly way more relatable. So no, Megyn Kelly's roast wasn't just spicy tea for gossip fans. It was a much-needed reality check for anyone who's ever stared at a glossy magazine cover and asked, why don't we look like that? Because here's the truth bomb hiding in all that sarcasm. Even the most glamorous, vacation-posting, red carpet-smiling couples are still just people. They disagree, they get cranky. And yeah, sometimes they probably question the whole thing while binge-watching TV in their sweatpants like the rest of us.
To her talking about her 8 years in the White House. SOT 27.
So I'm at this stage in life where I have to define my life on my terms for the first time. So what are those terms? And going to therapy just to work all that out. Like, what happened that 8 years that we were in the White House? What did that do to me?
Yes.
Internally, my soul, we made it through. We got out alive. I hope.
Megyn's pointed commentary on the Obamas' carefully curated marriage wasn't just throwing shade. It was a bright spotlight on how those polished public images can mess with regular people's sense of what a relationship should look like. When a former first couple's love story comes off like a flawless brand, press releases, magazine covers, and perfectly timed smiles, it's easy for the rest of us to spiral into, "Are we failing at love?" panic mode. But spoiler, you're not. You're just living actual life, and real life, it's messy, complicated, and honestly a lot more authentic than an airbrushed Instagram feed. Seeing the truth behind these public love stories isn't just about drama, it's about lifting the wild pressure placed on everyday couples. So when Megyn points out the hairline cracks in that glossy Obama romance, she's really saying this: it's totally okay to argue about dishes, feel overwhelmed by your calendar, or want to binge-watch shows in silence instead of unpacking the day's emotional load with your spouse. Because if even Barack and Michelle have to juggle all that, then trust, you're doing just fine when your partner forgets to charge the phone or refuses to give up the remote. And maybe the most refreshing part is that someone finally said it out loud. For years, celebrity couples have followed this unspoken script: be perfect, smile big, never let anyone see behind the curtain. But the truth is way more human, and Megyn's just making sure we all remember that.
God, the utter privilege and how out of touch this person is. She lived in a 55,000 square foot mansion on the taxpayer's dime with 18 acres of rose gardens and beautiful grounds all around her, flying on Air Force One, Marine One, and being the First Lady of the United States, lauded wherever she went with universally praising press coverage and covers of Vogue like she was the greatest beauty who'd ever walked the face of the earth, then left to write her best-selling memoir for which she was paid millions, then signed a net.
Millions saw Megyn's bold commentary as her shredding the Hollywood script live on air, basically yelling, "Nope, let's hear the real story, the good, the bad, and yes, even the awkward forgotten anniversaries." This hunger for authenticity isn't just about entertainment, it's a cultural shift. People are over the filters and craving something real. Because here's the truth: relationships are tough, whether you've got a Secret Service motorcade or you're just someone who accidentally shrunk your favorite sweater in the wash. And when high-profile couples finally admit it's not all perfect, that gives everyone else permission to be imperfect too, and not feel bad about it. Of course, Megyn Kelly's takedown didn't just disappear into the background. It hit like a pop culture grenade, blowing open the carefully curated world of political power couple narratives. The media went wild with it. Gasp-filled headlines, tweet storms, and a wave of keyboard commentary that could power a small rocket. Some were shocked, clutching their metaphorical pearls, horrified that anyone would dare question what's long been considered a picture-perfect union. But others, they were nodding in agreement so hard it looked like a collective neck workout. Finally, someone had the guts to call out the illusion. Social media lit up like a battlefield with hashtags flying and debates raging. One side argued that living in the constant glare of fame is like trying to build a marriage in a pressure cooker. No privacy, no breathing room, and no margin for being human.
Own sense of everything. They mess you up. You love them dearly, but they're a hassle.
What? I mean, there's something wrong with this person. Like, she's seriously depressed. She has the most negative, dark outlook on life I've ever heard from a public figure. Certainly one who's been given so much. Okay, her window into motherhood and having a child, the first thing she says, they mess you up. They mess you up. Maybe that's what happened to her. Maybe she was totally delightful before the two daughters came along. I don't know. She clearly is not enjoying motherhood and enjoying being in a marriage. Even less. It's not you if things get hard. It's all hard. It's all hard. This is so...
The other side quickly jumped in to defend the Obamas' right to keep their marriage private, calling Megyn's comments harsh, unnecessary, and maybe even a little out of line. But spoiler alert, no one walked away with a clear win. What we did get was a very loud reminder: no marriage, no matter how glossy and camera-ready, is safe from public speculation. And while the internet buzzed, Michelle Obama responded with silence. Not a statement, not a post, not even a subtle like. And that silence, it said more than any fiery clapback ever could. No rebuttals, no interviews, just a carefully measured quiet that only stoked the flames. That kind of quiet is powerful. It didn't shut down the conversation, it amplified it. It turned up the volume on every whisper, every headline, every what if. Because let's be honest, if there's one thing the internet loves more than drama, it's mystery. The silence made everything feel juicier. Was she brushing it off because it's absurd? Is there something to hide? Or are they really just that unbothered? Whatever the reason, Michelle's non-response made Megyn's commentary hang in the air like the final scene of a suspense movie, unresolved and begging for a sequel. And here's the real takeaway. Beneath all the memes and online snark, there's a lesson we can't ignore. It's time to stop believing that just because a relationship looks perfect on camera, it's flawless behind the scenes. Spoiler, it's not.
To write her best-selling memoir, for which she was paid millions, then signed a Netflix deal for which she was paid millions, is giving speeches for which she's getting paid almost $1 million per speech, has 2 daughters who went to Harvard and USC. The 2 of them together, I haven't even counted her husband's riches. They're definitely billionaires by now. The house in Martha's Vineyard, which is, I think, $20 million out on the yachts of David. What happened to me? Why doesn't anyone think about what happened to me during my... I'm enraged. I'm almost speechless at how ridiculously...
We've got to remember, behind every polished photo and every perfectly crafted headline, real life is happening. Real life, complete with all the imperfections, disappointments, and yes, those messy moments we all try to hide in our own relationships. That means it's time to stop swallowing the glossy celebrity facade like it's gospel truth. Once you start peeling back those layers, you see the same messy patterns, complexity, struggle, growth, not just fairy tale endings. And hey, this isn't just a one-off roast aimed at the Obamas. It's a wake-up call for how we look at every perfect couple in the spotlight, from Hollywood to Capitol Hill. So buckle up, because this is only the beginning. There are plenty more perfect public stories out there just waiting for a little Megyn Kelly-style unmasking. Spoiler alert, they're probably not as flawless as you think. And trust me, when those stories drop, you'll want your popcorn ready.
To be former Attorney General Eric Holder, he's a non-factor. He
is not a non-factor.
He's a non-factor in our relationship.
Okay,
in our
then
story.
let's
Neither of them,
contextualize
although
that,
they put us together because we were both reluctant spouses attending one of these huge dinners.
Okay.
And where were they? Was Barack a U.S. senator at the time?
Yes, he was a senator because you were still living in Chicago. And Eric was in private practice. So it was the very early...
Because here's the real truth. It's way more entertaining. While the headlines scream Megyn Kelly destroys Michelle Obama, the real story is about shaking up the myths we tell ourselves about marriage, power, and image. If the first couple's marriage can't be all roses and rainbows, then maybe we're all off the hook for not being flawless. That's why this whole spectacle isn't just juicy gossip. It's a cultural reset. A reminder that behind every smiling couple on a magazine cover is a messy, complicated, very human relationship. And Megyn Kelly, she just made sure we all got a front row